Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Standing Committee on Human Services. My name is Ken Cheveldayoff. I'm the MLA for Saskatoon-Willow Grove, and I will serve as your chair this afternoon. Committee members present and any substitutions. Ms. Mira Conway is a member. She will be substituting in for her is Elena Young today. Mr. Ryan Domitar is here. Mr. Mohammed Fayez, Mr. Derek Myers, Mr. Hugh Nerline. Ms. Alana Ross is a member of the committee, and substituting in for her today is Mr. Travis Kasich. Consideration of committee resolutions. We're here today to vote off the remaining committee resolutions for the following ministries. In the 2022-23 year estimates, we'll be voting vote 37, 169, Advanced Education, vote 5, Education, vote 32, Health, vote 20, Labor Relations and Workplace Safety, vote 36, Social Services, and in the 2021-22 supplementary estimates number 2, we will be voting off vote 32 for Health. We will begin with vote 37, Advanced Education. Central Management and Services subvote AE01 in the amount of $16,621,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Post-secondary education subvote AE02 in the amount of $684,066,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Student supports subvote AE03 in the amount of $39,200,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Student support subvote, non-appropriate expense adjustment in the amount of $400,000. Non-appropriate expense adjustments are non-cash adjustments presented for information purposes only. No amount is to be voted. So advanced education vote 37, $739,887,000. I will now ask a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023, the following sums for advanced education in the amount of $739,887,000. Mr. Fayez, is that agreed? Agreed. Carried. All right, vote number 5, education on page 35. Central Management and Services subvote ED01 in the amount of $14,233,000. Is that agreed? Agreed. Carried. K-12 education subvote ED03 in the amount of $2,117,017,000. Is that agreed? Agreed. Carried. Teachers' pensions and benefits subvote ED04 in the amount $23,934,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Early years subvote ED08 in the amount of $314,129,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Provincial Library and Literacy subvote ED15 in the amount of $14,446,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Non-appropriate expense adjustment in the amount of $0. Non-appropriate expense adjustments are non-cash adjustments presented for information purposes only. No amount is to be voted. Education, vote 5, $2,400,000. $483,759,000. I will now ask a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023, the following sums for education in the amount of $2,483,759,000. Mr. Domitar. Is that agreed? All right, for vote number 32, Health on page 67. Central Management and Services, subvote HE01 in the amount of $10,110,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Saskatchewan Health Services, subvote HE03 in the amount of $4,648,300,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Provincial Health Services and Support, subvote HE04 in the amount of $280,447,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Medical Services and Medical Education Programs, subvote HE06 in the amount of $1,047,938,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Drug Plan and Extended Benefits, subvote HE08 in the amount of $451,472,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Non-appropriate expense adjustment in the amount of $1,501,000. Non-appropriate expense adjustments are non-cash adjustments presented for information purposes only. No amount is to be voted. I will now ask for a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Health vote 32 in the amount of $6,438,267,000. Is that agreed? Carried. I will now ask a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023, the following sums for health in the amount of $6,438,267,000. Mr. Nerline, is that agreed? Carried. We will now turn our attention to vote 20, Labor Relations and Workplace Safety on page 91. Central Management and Services, subvote LRO1 in the amount of $5,160,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Occupational Health and Safety, subvote LRO2 in the amount of $9,935,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Employment Standards, subvote LRO3 in the amount of $3,171,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Labor Relations Board, subvote LRO4 in the amount of $1 million. Is that agreed? Carried. Labor Relations and Mediation, subvote LRO5 in the amount of $745,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Workers Advocate, subvote LRO6 in the amount of $863,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Non-appropriated expense adjustment in the amount of $92,000. Non-appropriated expense adjustments are non-cash adjustments presented for information purposes only. No amount is to be voted. Labor Relations and Workplace Safety, vote 20. $20 million, $874,000. I will now ask that, okay, I've got to sign it first. I will now ask that a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023, the following sums for labor relations and workplace safety in the amount of $20,874,000. Mr. Myers, is that agreed? Carried. Vote 169, Advanced Education, on page 152. Loans to Student Aid Fund, subvote AE01, in the amount of $80 million. Is that agreed? Carried. Advanced Education, vote 169, $80 million. I will now ask a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2023, the following sums for advanced education in the amount of $80 million. Mr. Kasich? Making sure you're paying attention? Yeah.
$80 million worth of funding, having not having had an opportunity to read the financials in detail. But I do so move. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kasich moves. Is that agreed? Carried. All right, and we'll go to supplementary estimates number 2 from the 2021-22. Vote 32 Health on page 11. Saskatchewan Health Services subvote HE03 in the amount of $112,751,000. Is that agreed? Carried. Health vote 32. $112,751,000. I will now ask a member to move the following resolution. Resolved that there be granted to Her Majesty for the 12 months ending March 31st, 2022, the following sums for health in the amount of $112,751,000. Mr. Nerline, is that agreed? Carried. The committee clerk is going to hand out a draft report to committee members. Committee members, you have before you a draft of the third report of the Standing Committee on Human Services. We require a member to move the following motion, that the third report of the Standing Committee on Human Services be adopted and presented to the Assembly. Mr. Myers?
Mr. Nerling.
Pardon me? Oh, Mr. Nerling? Oh, okay. I feel like the speaker. Mr. Nerling was supposed to be doing it, but Mr. Myers was very aggressive.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move that the third report of the Standing Committee on Human Services be adopted and presented to the Assembly.
Is that agreed? Carried.
And then this one, sign date and read to carry.
All right, so that concludes everything. All right, committee members, that concludes our business today. I would ask that a member move a motion of adjournment. Mr. Fayez has moved. All agreed? Carried. The committee stands adjourned until the call of the chair.
Thank you.